Okay. All right, so now I am adding my You Are My Sunshine, and I did this one at an angle also. And you see I added a piece of tape only so that it can give me a guide as my center. And rub on it just a little bit. And remember, I like to peel at an angle so that I'm not jerking up any words or letters. Peel at an angle. So there we are. You Are My Sunshine is completed. So now, and I like to clean up as I go because I have issues when it comes to that. So as you can see, I've already cut out my sunflowers and I got them kind of close. This is one of my half ones, which I'm probably going to cut again. And I have like 3 different sizes because I'm going to put a little bit more around her name than I did the other one. And these smaller ones are for my pen. So now we are ready to put our water slide in the water itself. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and take the tape off that I used for my center. I'm going to see if I can bring this, yes, down just a little bit so that you can see me drop it down in the water. Okay. So water slides down in the water. So I know I'm going to at least use 4. And I just drop them down in the water and I let them sit in the water. You're going to be able to tell when they're ready because they're going to start separating from the paper itself, which is going to make it a lot easier to slide. That's a sure way to let you know if it's not enough sealant on it or if it's not ready, because if it doesn't easily slide off, then it's not ready. And another thing I wanted to say about the water slides is if you spray today, I wouldn't wait next week to start, like a whole week before I use those water slides, because what I've learned that after about day 3, day 4, sometimes when you start to cut around it as we have, it starts to crack and it's visible. So that crack that you see, it's like the glue has gotten hard and it's gonna crack. And when it does, you're gonna be able to see that in your work. So you have to be exceptionally careful with that. Just keep in mind with your water slides, you do those when you're about ready to use them, not do them and weeks later go back to them, because they're not gonna be the same. That glue is gonna be really, really different. It's gonna be really hard to cut. So as you can see, the water slides are just sitting in the water. I'm going to go ahead and add I'm going to do an example of one that I'm going to cut after it's been in the water so that I can show you that you can do that. You just have to be very, very careful, because this one I'm probably going to cut a little bit more, but I wanted to leave it like this so that you can see it that way, okay? And I like to make sure that they're underwater. And again, you're going to need some paper towels with this process because you're going to get water, you're working in water. So I've been letting it sit in the water. And here's one I'm just going to peel out. And see how it just comes apart? It clearly comes off, clearly. That's how you know that it's ready. Because if it doesn't slide off that easily, it's not ready to be used. So, I'm going to put one here. I'm going to let that sit for a minute. Try to get, the thing with water slide is you have to get all of the water bubbles out of it. Otherwise it's going to dry that way. And once it dries that way, there's no way to go back and get that out. So we're going to make sure, here's another one. See, I just picked it up and it's already beginning to separate. It's separating without me having to pull at it or force at it or anything like that. That's exactly how you want it. You definitely want it to pull apart on its own without you having to force it to work. Oh, I really like this. Okay. So that one is not doing like the other one. So we're going to let that one soak just a little bit more. This one had already started peeling apart before I even picked it up. That's how I knew that one was ready. Just that quick. The other one didn't do that. And that was a sure enough sign that it needed a little bit more love. And it could be the way that it was sprayed. And there's a lot of other things that could have factored into that as to why it didn't come off immediately. And as you can see, I'm just going back and I am damping, just soaking up some of the water so that it is not going to be in a water bubble in my water slide. And once you get a water bubble, you're going to know exactly what that is. You're going to know, oh, that's not supposed to be like that. So let's go back to this one. And if it doesn't work, I have another one. Okay, so it did slide off. Which I have no idea where I'm going to put this. So from now, this is what we're looking like. And I just used a paper towel and I'm just damping the water out. And you definitely don't want water in it when you put the epoxy in. So you want to make sure this is dry. And you're going to know that it's dry because you're not going to be able to move it at all. At all. If it's still sliding, which you don't want it to slide, but if it's still sliding, it's not ready, it's not dry, is what it's telling you. So I have one more, and I think I'm going to put that one on the bottom here. So I'm going to let that one soak in the water. Remember, I just dropped it down in the water, and I'll just let it sit until it's time to separate. Okay, so in the meantime, I'm going to start working on the one that's at the top here. That's going to be a half one. So I'm going to, I think I want to trim this one down just a little bit more. And I'm going, as I'm using my cup as a guide, which I always say that, you know, you can try to make something that way, but it's probably not going to always be perfect. So, because of my water slide already sliding just a little bit, I'm going to hold it at a place to where it's not going to move that much. And if I mess this one up, I have another one that I could always cut in half as I did that one. And let me look at this first to make sure. See how it's too big? If I was to put it down right now, to me that would be, well, it would still work, but I would want to trim some of it off because it's really close to my letters. That's the reason why I'm going to trim it down just a little bit. So I'm going to hold it in place. It is moving now. I'm going to hold it in place and try to cut it, but sometimes this will work and sometimes it does not. So you have to be very, very careful with that. So it did trim, but do you see how it's just sliding, how it's moving? That's why it's really, really hard to really hard to cut that. It's best to try to have it that way before you put it in the water. So I like to make sure that my water slide is wet, and because I had it out of the water for a few seconds, a minute or less, um, and I don't put it that close to the top because I want it to, I'm going to put epoxy on it, so I know my hand is going to be in that area a lot. There is that sunflower. I just remember we trimmed that one down just a little bit intentionally just to show you that it can be done, but you saw how it slides. And then I'm going to keep a watch on the ones that I've already placed, making sure that there's no water bubbles are forming, because that's not the look that I like or want or should want if that's the case, especially with water slides. And I am going to go here and just get some of that water out so that it can start drying the way that it's supposed to dry. And I am super, super excited because I am loving this look. Y'all, I get to singing in my soprano voice. Y'all know I get to sing in my soprano voice when I like it. Yay! I'm really liking this. So, again, that's how you place your water slides. You soak it in the water, let it sit, and it's gonna let you know when it's about ready, which I have one that's been in here for a minute, so I'm gonna go ahead and this should be as long as it has been in the water, it should slide off. If it does not automatically come off, that's an indication that something is wrong, remember. So let's see if we need to love on this one, or is it gonna separate? Well, it separated without me having to use my other hand. That's how you want it to be. That's exactly how you want it to be. So on that one, I think I just put one on the bottom, which I do like that. And we'll just try to get it in the center. But it's totally up to you how you want it. I thought about putting some, I said no, I'm just going to keep it. Actually, somebody saw that one and wanted one just like it, so I'm going to try to get it as close to it as I possibly can. See, I had to pull it away so I can see. So that is the center, somewhere near the center. I am loving this. That is the sunflower that we cut in half to put the half part on. And I gotta be careful that I'm moving that sunflower on the bottom. I just realized that. And I'm gonna make sure there's no water in that also. And I'm gonna, see, I have a natural reaction to grab the bottom of it. But I'm gonna go and make sure that there's no water. And sometimes if it's a big water slide, I would just dip it in water just a little bit and go over it just to get, if it had water bubbles in it, that is how I would remove them, by just making sure this was wet just a little bit, damp, and then I would go and get those out. Otherwise you're going to tear your water slide trying to clean them up and get the air or water bubbles, is what I like to call it, because that's exactly what it is. And I'm going to keep a watch on this one to make sure that none of those are forming. I think I got most of them out. As you can see, I am rubbing it slightly just to make sure that there's no water bubbles that I'm not seeing, because sometimes when you think they're all gone, you know, they could be hiding under the surface. But with those you normally see. You normally can see those. So now I'm going to put one down here. Looks like that's where it was. Which I could have put one in the center here, or one down here towards her name. Okay, so now I need another half one. A half one. I'm going to do this one before I put it in the water. So I can use this as a guide as to how much I need to trim off. And again, if we don't feel like that's enough, we can always go back and trim it again. So this is my trim, and I am going to turn it upside down that way, and I think that will work. So I am setting it in the water now. Do you see why I like my water to be room temperature or cold? Because sometimes you have to sit here and I mean it has to go, and especially if you're doing a bigger decal or a bigger water slide, sometimes that cold water can get, whoo, yeah. But I'm really liking how this is turning out. It's like a, and this is just to rub on it and make sure that it's no water bubbles in it, and if it is, I'm just rubbing those out. And in order to do that, I do it with a wet or damp paper towel, because water slides can tear very, very easily. They can tear very easily. Oh, that is so pretty. All right, and we're almost there. Okay, so now we're going to do the bottom sunflower. Okay, and we flip that one upside down. Or remember, if it does not slide, which it did, it is ready. And I add water. The reason why I dipped it back in that is because if I need to, so this is gonna have to be trimmed just a little bit more, because, let's see, yes, I'm gonna have to trim this one just a little bit more. If not, I'm gonna get another one and start over, because I just need the dome part basically. And as you can see, I'm glad that happened that way, so that you can see it is doable in case you need to go back to it. You just have to be very, very careful. And keep in mind, once you put your cup down, as much as I would want this to be perfect, it's probably not going to be. And I'm just working with it, moving it around, making sure that it's where I want it to be. And I'm trying to get it very much close to that edge, as you can see, as to this one. Very much close to the edge. Very close to the edge is where I'm trying to get that. And if you ever need to move it around, make sure that your hand is wet or there's some water, so that you're not going to tear your water slide, because again, they tear very, very easily. And you see how I just moved that. So I'm going to take it back and put it back where it goes. One thing about water slides is once they dry, they are very hard to get off. So if you, I mean, if it's right away, yes, but otherwise, I've had some issues with that. So if I set my tumbler down, that is how it's going to look as of right now, which is almost like the one that I created. Sunflowers may be off just a little bit, but overall, I like how this turned out. And the back side is, I added one extra. This one has 3 sunflowers, this one has 4, and they both have the one on the bottom. So I really do like how this turned out. I am really, really, really excited. So today you've learned how to apply your water slide decals, and I will do another tutorial on how to spray the water slides, because it's really not that hard. The main thing is making sure that you give it, at least, I give mine at least 3 coats of the triple thick and let it dry in between each time. So I am really excited. Looks like I have a water bubble here, which will drive me crazy. I will take the whole thing off if I can't get that out. That's just how I am. I got issues when it comes to that. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can get it out, and if I can, it's got to come off. I believe it's working. Let's see. I like that. I like that. Yay. 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 Okay, so we have one more thing to design, and that will be the pen. And because I cut this, it seems like it's having some little extra fray edges, is what I like to say with embroidery. But overall, I like this. We've done a great job together. We have created another tumbler. So let's see if we can do the pen really, really quick. And I did not, let's see. I'm gonna sand this down just a little bit, and only because I'm putting the water slide on it and I don't want it to be any type of bumpiness or anything like that, and I'm adding a name to this. So I'm gonna sand this down and I will be right back.